My name is Jeff Pompeo. I'm the founder and president of Caretaker Medical. We are a wireless hemodynamic patient monitoring company. In fact, the nice thing about a wearable is you can wear your product all around conferences like this to really be starters. What we set out to do was do more than just vital signs monitoring. This is hemodynamic monitoring to assess and detect hemodynamic decline in patients rapidly and quickly, so interventions can happen earlier before AKI and bad things begin to happen. In fact, I'm going to set this here, and if this goes like normal, when my nervousness rains down, you'll be able to see my blood pressure start dropping as we talk. So let's talk about why this matters, right? So if you look at today's hospital, patients are sicker than ever, older than ever, and larger than ever. And if you look at the staff that has to treat them, hospitals are overcrowded, especially post-COVID, understaffed, and have lots of nursing fatigue. The result of this perfect storm is there's an increased risk of undetected patient decline in terms of their hemodynamics, meaning their blood pressure, their cardiac output, their breathing rate, their respiratory rate. And that decompensation leads very directly and very quickly to organ damage. We like to joke in our model that high blood pressure may kill you eventually, but hypotension, a drop in blood pressure, is going to kill you right now. And that's what we're worried about, especially in the perioperative continuum. In the perioperative continuum from the surgery to post-op, there are 4 million deaths a year. And during that perioperative continuum, that's where lots of bad things happen, right? Half of cardiac arrests are preceded by a warning, but 2/3% of the time, no one's watching. So these are preventable and attackable cardiac arrest issues that can be arrested if you know about them. Somewhere between 25 and 75% of all deaths in hospitals happen in unmonitored beds outside the ICU. And studies show us that 13% of those deaths are attributed to nobody watching and no one knew. From a fluid management standpoint, 20% of patients on IV fluids, which is 80% of people in the hospital, by the way, have preventable complications, either because they're overinfused or they're underinfused. And now with the new sepsis rules, the SEP1 bundle, to get reimbursement for a sepsis patient, you've got to document what you did or didn't do with regard to the fluids that you gave that patient. And that's a manual process now that products like ours can automate. It's so bad perioperatively that Dr. Sessler from Cleveland Clinic says that if the month after surgery was considered a disease state, it'd be the third leading cause of death in the United States. And it's all because the clinicians don't know. Let me give you an example. Here's an ICU patient that just came out of surgery, being monitored pretty real time in lots of things except for blood pressure. He's got a standard blood pressure cuff on. See those blue dots? That's that upper arm cuff inflating every 4 minutes, which is about as fast as you can do it before you wear out the brachial artery. And see those black lines? That's her actual beat by beat blood pressure. That's the real blood pressure, central aortic pressure changes. Notice two things. Notice the volatility in her blood pressure between the blue dots, and more importantly, notice the decline. Unfortunately, she's one of the 9% of anesthetized patients that have a drop into the danger zone where the anesthesiologist has to push a pressor to get that blood pressure back up before kidney injury starts or even death. And by the way, 47% of these post-operative hypotensive events are missed with the spot check. And that's what we set out to do with VitalStream, right? This is actually the world's first FDA-cleared wireless wearable with indications for continuous beat-by-beat blood pressure. That's a blood pressure reading with each heartbeat, as well as advanced hemodynamics like cardiac output and stroke volume. So what we set out to do was build a non-invasive, continuous, wire-free monitor to untether patients from the boat anchors that are trapping them in beds so they can ambulate early, plus deliver real-time data that will detect deteriorating events before they happen, allow quick diagnosis, and most importantly, rapid fluid guidance or direction of what the event needs to be. Now, their continuous beat-by-beat blood pressure and cardiac output already exists, and the gold standard is invasive catheters. If you want to measure cardiac output in real time, if you want to measure beat-by-beat blood pressure in real time, this is the gold standard. You stick a catheter into your artery somewhere on your body. But because they're invasive, because they have infection risk, because they delay treatment, they're really only used in the OR and the ICU. In fact, you can't leave the ICU to a lower cost bed until you remove these lines. But what if there was a better way? What if there was a way to get that invasive beat-by-beat cardiac output, stroke volume, hemodynamics, and blood pressure, but in a non-invasive form factor that was wearable, that could be up and running in less than 60 seconds? And that's what we've built, the VitalStream. It's a rechargeable watch that has a disposable finger sensor, and from that finger sensor, using our patented pulse decomposition analysis technology, we're able to derive the continuous BP, cardiac output, respiratory rate, stroke volume, and have automatic charting so that you don't manually charting for sepsis reimbursement and so forth. But we're also a completely wire-free platform. So we've integrated pulse oximeters, ECG patches, other wireless sensors into our platform. From our wrist, the data can be displayed on our companion app, on our cloud portal, or to central stations, or more importantly, directly into EMRs and other monitors like the Philips IntelliVue. We actually measure 20 physiological parameters, again, all FDA-cleared, all being sold right now. We are an early revenue company looking for more money to scale our sales force to drive. So we've proven this out already. I'll also point out the fluid management, which is a big deal for that sepsis reimbursement. How did this patient respond to fluids, positively or negatively? That's up to $43,000 of missed reimbursement that a hospital's not going to get if they didn't document that. Very briefly, the way it works is every time your ventricle ejects blood into your aortic tree, there's a reflective wave that comes back up out into your periphery. Our finger sensor digitizes that waveform, tears it into its constituent parts, and derives all of those FDA-cleared things. Now you would say this is great, but only if it's accurate. We've got 16 published papers over the last 7 years showing our accuracy, not to an upper arm cuff, which is plus or minus 10 points, by the way, but directly to the gold standard A-line on difficult patients, sepsis patients, arrhythmia patients. And our cardiac output has been referenced to invasive thermal dilution, which is the gold standard there. So we see a world where we can eliminate blind spots, not just perioperatively, but the entire continuum of care. In the ED, in those hallway overflow beds where patients are there for hours and no one's watching until a seminal event happens. Through the OR to recovery to the med-surg ward where all those deaths happen post-operatively, and even hospital, home, and clinics. And I'm happy to say, since we raised money last year and deployed a sales force, we've now got paying customers in each one of these segments, all being driven by early indications to reduce rapid response, reduce lengths of stay in the expensive ICU beds, and to reduce those fluid and AKI injuries. We spent the first 8 years of this company in R&D mode. That was a very heavy lift. Last year, and we've gotten 5 FDA clearances. Last year was really our coming out party. We raised $5 million. Notable investors are Baxter and Philips in our company. And this year, we're raising a growth round of capital specifically to take our 5-person sales force and quintuple it and go out there and leverage the paying customers that we have now, the notable hospital names that you have, and the 200+ clinics we have that range from sleep disorder labs to infusion centers to outpatient surgery centers, and democratize non-invasive, wire-free, follow the patient hemodynamic monitoring. Thank you very much.